In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, mashallah, the blessing of God. I'm here to do another Quran study. Today we continue from, we'll start from verse 181. I just want to talk a couple of things about things that as it has been becoming very more and more obvious, and that God has made the religion very, very easy and simple to understand, simple to follow, and it has been becoming more obvious that it's a lot harder to go to hell than to heaven. If you want to go to heaven, it's a lot easier if you really understand and put our opinions and our egos and everything's on the side. And if you just follow what God says, that we hear and we obey, God has already made everything simple for us, laid out the plan for us to follow, and all we have to just do what God says. We don't have to work hard. When we oppose, when we object to the right path, we have to work a lot harder to come up with the reasons why this is the right path and justify and all that. I mean, if you see, if you're asked to explain an event that happened, you don't have to work hard. You just explain the event exactly what happened. But when we want to twist the story and change the story for some different outcome, we have to think about every step that is my story is right, if it's connecting, to lay out the plan, and we have to work a lot hard to come up with an alternative story. And by doing so, we make a lot of mistakes, where it was very easy to just tell exactly what happened in the same way. When God tells us something, we just do it. When we oppose, and it is hard. If, for example, if you see it here, then like when we do the multiple choice questions, and there's a question, right, and then there's 4 possible answers, A, B, C, and D. It is, I mean, as mashallah more we do the study and understand the God's religion, it's very obvious. Every now and then we come across verses upon one verse after one verse. There's hint. God is giving us hint. Look, this is the right answer. And if you, I mean, it's you like you have a smile on your face. Why did God say that here? Why? Oh my God, praise be to God. So if there's a question, like we do the multiple choice question, and there's 4 possible answers, A, B, C, D. And for example, A is the right answer. God will make it very obvious, to be honest with you. In the beginning, we may not see it, but or we see on the easy questions, easy things, but God says just do 4 step, this and that, and we follow it. God put a chip in our heart when we come to this world that our God is one God. And after all that, it becomes very obvious. A, for example, for this question, A was the right answer. You will see, you will have a smile on your face. You're like, God is literally pointing at this answer, literally telling you this. You don't even have to read the wrong answer. It's like, okay, so this test is done for me. I mean, I see 100 questions and the right answers are already marked. I just have to accept them. I mean, literally, it is that easy. And God will make the wrong answers, B, C, D, for example, for this question were wrong. God makes it, I mean, so obvious. So obvious. This is wrong answer. This is wrong answer. This is wrong answer. Literally, easy. Very easy. And if you just pick the right answer, it's easy and simple, straightforward. When you pick the wrong answer, like for example, purposely want to pick the C's, we know it's the wrong answer. In the beginning stage, we are aware that's the wrong answer. Many people talk to people, they say, you are right, you understand that. But this is what has been passed on to us. We cannot move. We cannot leave that path. They know, and why not? And for that, long reasons of this and that, which, I mean, look at Abraham's story when he breaks the idols and said, go ask the big one. And they themselves realize that Abraham is right. If you read that story from Surah 21, they understand in their heart, he's right. We are picking the wrong answer. He's telling us, he proves us that he's Ibrahim is telling us A is the right answer. We are wrong, but they say no. What this is what's been passed on to us. How can we move from this is wrong? What and for that they have to come up with a lot of reasons, objections, a lot of story making, and this and that. Work so hard to get the right answer, and what happens? That's why when you keep leading that path, that's what happens. And you start liking that path. God put a drone in our life. Okay, this is, if you really want to, God give you so many signs. Look, see, he's not the right answer. A is the right answer. Or you keep rejecting. And at some point, we like it. We start liking that answer. Look at what happened to Satan. He was not kicked out right away. God gave him hints. Like when you read, I blew into him from my spirit. What was a hint? You say, I'm better than him. I'm made of fire. Oh, wait a minute, Satan. I blew into him from my spirit. Does that matter anything? Yeah, he made of clay, but God blew into him from his spirit. It kind of becomes part of God in that sense that the entity this from the spirit, it has something which belongs to God. Does that matter you anything? The clay is one thing, but there's something in it that was come from God. Does that matter anything to you? Any hint? No, I'm better. I'm gonna make them go off your path and this and that, objecting. Wait a minute. I made him from my own hand. Does that matter anything? No. Look at what are these hints for? Like, think about it. Same way we see every time, mashallah, come across verses like God is giving us hint. Wait a minute, stop. You gotta make praise God. If you really think about it, it becomes that obvious. We're deliberately picking the wrong answer, and we know it's the wrong answer, and we try to justify as best as we can in the end doing so. And we have to work a lot hard for that. And it's very, very becoming obvious that it's a lot easier to go to heaven. You just follow it. You hear and we obey. And you start putting our opinions, even in submission. A lot of people are like, oh no, I think this is what it means, this is that what it means, and then we ask, I hear same things, and brother, you don't know, it's not that easy. Yeah, you made it complicated. It was easy in the beginning. Had you just done what Messenger said, then it would have been a lot easier. No, but you don't understand. Yes, I understand. For me, it's just I just want to stay on the path that I hear and we obey. God sent a messenger. The job is done. Everything is already made it easy for us. Why do we want to go in and create issues? Well, there's a lot of unanswered questions. What do you mean? There are no unanswered questions. Everything is done. Who do we ask? Well, ask God. He's the creator. Allah al-Quran, the teacher of the Quran. When we go on to start putting our opinion upon opinion, and then we start getting ourselves deeper in this whole, and we start just falling faster than gravity. One of the things that last class study talked about the Sabbath was that, there's a story that, I don't know if it's true or not, but it teaches a very important lesson that I want to stress that, so the day that they were not supposed to fish, and that's the day, like it's kind of God testing them, that a lot of fish will come and they'll see that and they cannot fish, and then what they will do is they will dig deep holes in the ground, and when the water is high and the fish will get trapped, and the next day when water recedes, the fish gets trapped in the holes, and then they can go next day and they can take all those fish, and by saying that, we didn't work yesterday, we obey God, but they got what they wanted, right? I don't know if that story is true or not, but I was looking deep into it, and I see a lot of things that I see in religion, that people make pathways, back doors, and this and that to get to the point where they want to get it. They get what they wanted by tricking, twisting the religion. Oh, we're obeying God, but they get what they want. One of the example in the traditional Islam is that they say interest is forbidden, but if you look closely, it's not. It's 2 and 3 time interest is a usury. That is, if you deep study. But even if you take that, so you made something forbidden for us, and then we get stuck in there. Now what we do? It was not there. This commandment was not there. It was usury. Interest 2, 3 times, like 24% or 22%, and on and on. Not 5, 6, 7%. That's not double. That's, think about it. But then you created something, and then now you get stuck in there. Now we gotta work around it. Now what do you do? Oh, somebody has to, somebody has to sell the property. They say we're gonna charge, there's interest. We're gonna charge interest, so the guy is gonna charge monthly fees on that, which will end up making the difference for the interest by same thing. So we created a loophole around it. We got what we wanted, and we said we didn't disobey God. Like, for example, one of the debate I had with a person was circumcision. Well, I said that it's not in the Quran. Why would you do something like that? So, well, I understand it's not part of religion. First, it was trying to debate, but then he said, I understand it's not part of the religion. Well, we do it because of health reasons. So he said, I obey God. I know, I'm certainly understand. I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it because it's for health reason. Well, God created us perfect, and that started another debate. And I said, you know what? The person end up following that path and end up taking action on it. Not only just believing it, he took an action on that. Something happened in the family, and he did follow through it happily. And I said, well, we didn't disobey God. What was the reason? There's a lot of many other health reasons we should do something like that. Then why not do a lot of healthy reason in life? How are we supposed to live healthier? We don't do that. You go to gym every day. Do you do this? Do you do that? These are all healthy actions. And where would that come to that? You make a loophole around it. You get to where you want it. Things like that. So that's why it's very important to understand, because that happens a lot in religion. There's several examples we can pull up, and you see where we think that we're obeying God, but we want to do something else, but we go around it. And God is aware of our innermost thoughts. We cannot. It's like, how can we hide it from God? So these are some very important things that we need to understand. So verse 181. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Among our creations there are those who guide with the truth, and the truth renders them righteous. As for those who reject our revelations, we lead them on without them ever realizing it. I will even encourage them. My scheming is formidable. Here's the thing that 4 answers are talked about. And this kind of hints, you'll see it everywhere. God is saying, among his creatures, those who guide with truth, and this truth renders them righteousness. This is the thing, the easiest way. Just say the truth. Like when you are asked in the court to teach, or there's investigation, what happened? Just tell them what happened. When you have to lie, you have to think about every possible way where, am I making mistake here? Am I making mistake here? Because this story is created. It has to make sense. It has this logic in it. Why we tell that this is what happened? I saw, like if there's an accident, you say, oh, this car was coming this way. This is what I saw, and exactly what I'm telling you. You don't have to think hard at all. And this is what the God says. We should speak the truth, and it will lead you to guidance. And if you lie, if you come up with the stories and this and that, if you want to twist the verses to make what we want, like a story of fish, or the 4 answers, then we have to do a lot of hard work. Obeying God brings prosperity. Even though it looks like I'm not going to make enough money if I do this. If I obey God in my business, it's not going to bring that much money. If I just do this, I don't think it's wrong. If your heart knows that if this is not the right thing to do, then don't do it, because not doing that, maybe you see less money will bring more prosperity. That's simple formula, easy peasy. And God is happy with us, and God makes us happy. If God is angry or sad with us, then our life will be sad and angry. Simple formula. But if you go oppose this, we have to work a lot harder. If you go oppose the truth, a lot of hard work to hide it versus this and that, then we won't have this outcome. There's cause and an reaction. So this reaction that's happening is done by truth. And if we change the cause, then we won't have this outcome. We will have astray. Somebody will go astray. You do this, we come with that. And we twist and lie, twist the verses. Why wouldn't we speak about the God, the truth? And then here God says in 182, as for those who reject the revelation, we lead them on without ever realizing it. That's the part that I was telling for praise God, that those 4 answers, and if you keep picking the wrong answer, and you don't, God makes it so obvious that this is not the right answer and this is the right answer. We deliberately, like the Abraham story, we deliberately pick the wrong answer. This starts to happen. This is a very dangerous zone. We lead them on without ever realizing. They won't even realize it, that they're on the wrong path. God adorned the path for them, the light up. This is okay. You picked the answer. God makes it exciting. Oh yes, this is the right way. This is good. And all this happening because of Satan. We read about the Satan hypnotizes his constituents. Those who reject or ignore God's verses or commandments, he picked them. He sees the opportunity right there. This person rejecting gets on it. God doesn't misguide, Satan is, in that way, if you look at it, is working hard to prove his point by he's obeying God. He's proving this many aspect of creating the 7 universes, the earth, all the stuff that God created. He's proving his point, and then that's what the constituents, they start doing the same thing. And we work so hard to go to hell. That's the point, inshallah, I'm trying to make. Just do what God says. God will make it easy for us. We will enjoy remembering God. Why does God say that? Absolutely heart rejoice when remembering God. God makes fun, religion fun, enjoyable. You like it, you miss it. Surah 21, God says the angels, they glorify God without ever tiring. Paraphrasing that verse, somewhere verse 20, 19, 18, somewhere around there, that area. Like, I used to think, why that they don't get tired? Why? I mean, to me, it was like boring. Glorifying God at the beginning stage, it was like, that's hard. We fall asleep. How can somebody can glorify God without ever tiring? But then, mashallah, God makes you realize, God answers your thoughts in a way that absolutely heart rejoice when remembering God. How can you be tired? Somebody loves to play video games. They can play all day long without ever getting tired. And who doesn't understand video games will think, oh my God, how can this person do all this work without tiring? They don't know that he's enjoying it or she's enjoying it. For us, we don't understand at that moment. Nowadays, like old times, a lot of people didn't know that how video games were popular, but now everybody's playing it, and they know and they realize it is. That's where we understand the reality. So they won't even realize it. They'll be happy. If that's probably the stage where you have passed all those, warnings and signs and hints and all that stuff. You came to this point without even them realizing. It's basically, there's no more U-turn left. Like you're driving and you're in the wrong way. God giving you sign, warning, wrong way, wrong way. And there's a U-turn, make a U-turn, after a while, then there's no more U-turn left. You gotta go in that path now. And then look at that. This is where I will even encourage them. If you pick that, and if you pick the right way, we can see the same thing about that too. In the way, if you pick the right way, you say yes sir to God, and you follow. God encourages us in a very beautiful way. God shows you sign after sign after sign to get to the point where you're like level of certainty. Then the miracle starts happening. And like your faith has reached the max, like the highest point in a way where you see miracles, there's God did it. You don't even need faith, and we have miracles 19. So there you see my scheming is formidable. God's scheming. God's that's why it's very important. Like the story of the fish and all the signs when we read it, God says voodoo 4-step, just yes, sir. No question asked. Now, when we go against that, we have to make up so many books and this and that to prove our point, to link with this story, that happened, that event, that happened. We got this from here, we got this from here, and then all the stories mixed up. And we have so many different ways to do voodoo now, where God says, just do this, and easy peasy. And we get in a lot of trouble. Then we put our opinions, our thoughts, and this and that, ego, and all that, and start coming. So God's scheming, if you really sit down and think about it, we start seeing the hints about that too. God's scheming. It's not a bad scheming is in a way the schemes, like some people think that it's a bad word. Why God is using that kind of negative thing to prove the point? No, scheming is like you get housing schemes. This new scheme came up, that you put that much money and then you will have. That's when investment to all those. Scheming is just a word. It could be bad or good. So this is in God's way. The system, the way it works, like Joseph's story, the putting the cup in the it was to prove a point. And when you understand and you start, God's opening up a light in our brain, and we read the Quran, and we see where the story happened and how God, what they try to. Wanted to get it, like again back to the fish story, what they want to get, and all the examples that mashallah use, interest and circumcision, then and many other examples. God's scheming will be applied in different ways, where the outcome we thought would be better, but they end up, and then God shows us sign like you did this. Look, now you're suffering because of that. Now take heed, turn, make a U-turn now at least. And then those who try to guide people or misguide, we don't guide anybody. God is the one. If one want to pass the message, that's a good thing, but we don't guide anybody. Same way we can say about the misguidance, because if you think about it, that's the objection that Satan has. We don't misguide anybody. So people work so hard to misguide other people they know that in the same way you can possibly say that, may God forgive me if I'm wrong, but you're not misguiding anybody. That person is destined to be misguided anyway. It was in his heart to begin with. We didn't do anything. He was destined for that. We accumulated a lot of negative points for us by doing this, misguide somebody else. A lot of negative points. That person was gonna be misguided one way or the other anyway. Same way when we try to pass message, we're not guiding anybody. That person was destined to be guided in one way or the other, because heaven and hell has already been written, right? In a way, God already knew what's going to happen. So that person is destined to be guided. And then we just accumulated a lot of positive points by doing so in the same way. So we're just fooling ourselves. And we We try to misguide somebody. It's very simple. Like the verse, if you read the verse 14, verse 22, what does it tell you? And the devil will say, after the judgment had been issued, God has promised you the truthful promise. Easy peasy life, truthful promise. Just do what God says. And I promise you too. He will say that on the day of judgment. I promise you too. I don't know if this happened day of judgment or the time of death, but this will be kind of a generalized statement from the Satan to the mankind. And I promise you, and I broke my promise. He admits that. God is telling about his intentions. I had no power over you. No power, only whispers. And he whispers, God shows us the right path too. We have to decide. We have to decide. I simply invited you. Just like we simply invite to the religion, the one God, any religion, just devote yourself to God alone. It can be any religion. Minimum requirement. You just devote yourself to God alone. And then the pathway door starts to open. I just invite you, you accepted the invitation. The problem was in your heart to begin with. It's not me that, you already had negative intentions in your heart. Accept it. So same way, if you have somebody has a negative intention, that person is going to go that path anyway. The jinn companion will lead you that way. So by retelling, misguiding some people and this and that, we are only doing harm to ourselves. And the person who's being misguided will have to account for themselves. They cannot blame us or the person who's leading. That's a mutual blaming. God said double retribution for both. I mean, think about that. That's a serious thing if you think about it. When the mutual blaming will be happening, those who followed the leaders and the previous generation, they will be so angry at them that God, please give them the double retribution. The same for the Abraham story, those who say that we follow our elders. So on the day of judgment, they will be blaming them. And then saying to God, God, give them the double retribution. They pass that on to us. And God will say, they will get the double retribution and you will get the double retribution and you don't know that. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing that verse. And you think about it, double the retribution. What is that? Hell is already worse. So double that, what does that mean? All these two, we should start listening and paying attention. What does that mean? Similar way God talks about in the prophet's wife, that you are prophet's wife. If you do something wrong, double retribution for you. What does that mean? Is it the same way of saying about those who follow blindly, double retribution, and those who lead people on the wrong pathway, for them double retribution, and those who lead people and those who follow without ever paying attention, blindly follow, both have double retribution. A lot to think about it. And then he says, therefore, do not blame me and only blame yourself. My complaining cannot help you, nor your complaining can help me. I have disbelieved in you, you're idolizing me, and the transgressors will have incurred a painful retribution. Why all these signs in the Quran, heaven and hell talked about back and forth next to each other. The hint. This is the right answer. This is the right answer. This is the wrong answer. This is the wrong answer. So the question is, why hate oneself? We are hating our own self. At the end of the day, I'm going to lose if I don't obey God. And God makes it very obvious. But if you miss all those signs, then God makes it adorned for us. We just, absolute happiness now and forever in God's path. Our heaven starts in this world, not in the hereafter. So if you obey God, we speak the truth. Truth renders us guidance, and that happiness now and forever. We live in peace and joy and happiness in this world without ever having to worry about any problem or anything, mistakes or any sickness or anything like that. And that's the other. Somebody was this very recently, a couple of days ago. Somebody was like saying, Well, Abraham gets sick, so that's why we cannot live a life without ever getting sick. I mean, when the messenger of the covenant said, "Read my lips," no problem whatsoever. You'll forget to how it feels to have a headache. So is he lying? Or that's why when we shortcome on our part, when we suffer in life, then we start blaming other things. No, Abraham gets sick. Abraham was, when he said that statement, he was a youth living among his people, and he's saying that, okay, even if I take your objection that Abraham used to get sick, well, he said that he makes me feel better. So when even had a flu, God made him feel better. Maybe the next morning he was okay. He started to get flu last night. By midnight he was better. Maybe he got a fever. In the morning he was better. He didn't have to suffer. So if you take your logic, then why somebody who would make that statement is going through a lot of diseases, and that person was involved in a lot of the diseases, then why not? Then even if I take that point, then why you are suffering with this disease? Then tell me. Think about that. But in reality, that Abraham said to say God is the healer. Yes, we get sick there's a lot of things going on in our body, plus minus. God fixes us. When the night of destiny comes, angels comes and they see people who needs healing and all that stuff, as how the messenger explains. There's so many hints. 184. Why do they not reflect upon their friend, the messenger? He's not crazy. He's simply a profound warner. Very simple, crystal clear. You see all over the cloud. He's just a warner. He has no powers. He cannot save us on the day of judgment. All those beliefs that lead us to, oh, it's okay, we will be forgiven. God is forgiving, most merciful. No, God sent a warner. God has done his job. God has given us a book, and on top of that, God sent a messenger with the miracle of 19 to clarify everything. We can talk about our generation. Everything has been cleared and proven and easy answer. And what we do. So he's just a warner. Messengers, prophets they're not even messenger and prophet are not even guided, are not the guiders. God guides. Even they are not. They cannot. You cannot tell them, guide this person. No. All you can do is just tell that person. That's it. And God comforts the messengers and prophets in the Quran. That if you really sum up all those verses, why you stress out? It's not your job. Your job is just to deliver the message. Why are you stressing out? It's like you have Facebook Messenger, you send a messenger, it has AI capabilities, and it starts to worry. No, God is like, you're sending the message, a messenger is delivering the message. Why you worry about it? He's a profound warner, because he's a messenger of God, and he's capable of, and he's not gonna make a mistake. He's not crazy. You calling him any crazy? He's not. He's a profound warner from the most gracious. And why don't you reflect upon their friend? You lived among him. God created a situation before, got to the point when he gave him the message. For I think it's 40 years he lived among these people. He was a very honest man, person who speaks the truth. They knew that. If somebody starts speaking, and why would you object to that? You knew this person doesn't lie. And he's not crazy. Probably a lot of negative words have been used, and same with other messengers. They were called a lot of names, along with the messenger of the covenant. Then God gives them the reason. God doesn't just tell you, and praise be to God. God gives us reason throughout the Quran that they not looked at the dominion of the heavens and the earth and all the things God has created? Does it ever occur to them that the end of their life may be near? Which hadith beside this do they believe in? So why does God mention have they not looked at the dominion of the heavens and the earth? This messenger that come in is talking about the entity was most gracious, most merciful, was very kind, and this and that, and we should worship that entity. Call him God, or any beautiful names. Any beautiful names you can think of. This is the entity. We worship only. This is when we obey. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. This is the entity we follow, and they said our heart, the chip. So he's telling them, let's worship the entity who has the dominion of the heavens and the earth. That's what the messenger is saying. Let's worship. That's what Abraham says. Something like, I'm paraphrasing his words, that to the owner of the heavens and the earth, the creator of the heaven. I devote myself to the owner of the creator of the heavens and the earth. So he's saying, the profound warner is saying, let's worship the entity who's the dominion of the heavens and the earth and all the things God has created. Let's worship this entity, the most gracious. What's wrong with this logic? Have they not looked at? That's what we see, right? God tells them about the rain cycle, this and that, many, many, many marvels of the earth. And which God's marvel can you deny? Something like that. The answer is the paraphrasing. Does it ever occur to them? Do you even realize? Where's my grandfather or grandfather? The end of mine year will be near. And we live in a time where we see a lot of videos of, my favorite actors. When I see them, they're getting old, and some of them have passed away. It makes me sad, because this is who we saw growing up. Oh, this is my favorite actor. But then we see them now. This is the reality, and for us too, that end is very near. Every time you see people like, you see the wrinkles and gray hair, and what are these signs for? We are reaching the end of our journey on this earth. Reaching near, closer and closer. Then God logically talks about, which hadith beside this? What is this? The Quran. Which hadith? God even mentioned the word by word, the hadith. This is a clear-cut red flag, the 4 answers. Now look, if you really start paying attention to many things, God is pinpointing the A, B, C, D, and the A was the right answer. Which hadith other than this do you believe in? This one or this one? So again, you just come over, if you're looking for right answer, you say, oh my God, what is this? Only Quran. You see throughout the Quran, you see only through the Quran and Quran alone. The verses like when you preach Quran alone, they run away in aversion, those who don't believe in the hereafter. So very clear-cut sign, and the word used in Arabic is the word hadith, to give a sign. These were written 250 years later. We have the sign after sign. We have Google. We can just Google it and we'll see that on our search, this was written way long time ago. What happened in those 250 years? Why in Surah Furqan, the statue, book of statue, in that book, a statement will be made on the day of judgment by the Prophet. The statement, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّي إِنَّ قَوْمَ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ, and the Prophet, Rasul, messenger will say, Ya Rabbi, my Lord. Rasul, Ya Rabbi, my people have deserted this Quran. Had we supposed to follow anything, wouldn't that be said in that verse? That if you're supposed to follow another book or something, my people have deserted this Quran and this book. Nothing said here. This coming right after the book of statute, Al-Furqan. What means you see sign everywhere, one after sign, and then if you just see, we believe, we hear, and we obey, and then it will be simple. We don't have to object to anything. Yes, I'm only following Quran. Messenger will say too, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّي إِنَّكُمْ مُتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. We don't have to make up a story. Like trying to explain, I went to someone, we're just telling you, we don't even have to think. Just only we have to think about it in our memory. Yeah, we were walking, we saw this, we saw that happened, that happened. Simple. And then also, whoever God commits to straying, there's no way for anyone to guide them. He leaves them all in their sins, blundering. So, if anybody, God guides anybody, nobody can misguide a person. And whoever God commits to straying, and that doesn't happen by just God picking. When God gives him all the reasons and explanation, and they still pick the wrong answer, it comes a point, God knows, according to whoever's situation where they're born in circumstances, there's some point when you justify so hard to prove your point to God, okay, fine, then that person will commit to be straying. There is no way anyone guiding. Even you give him a message, there's one God. That's why you see it doesn't even move anyone. Some those who have maybe crossed that line, or who we don't know that. All you do is just tell the message. There's only one God to whom we worship alone. That's it. I mean, in a simple way, if you look at it. But you cannot guide. There's no way anybody can do it. You can get all of the theories and scriptures and signs and scientific reasons and whatever, whatnot. If God have committed someone to be straying, you can probably show them the spiritual world, maybe, and I don't know. There's no way you can guide this person. If God has committed this person to be straying, only at the time of death, when the curtains are lifted, that person sees the reality. That person need to see it, but it's too late. When God leaves in blood, I mean, this is serious. We should be running, not even walking, sprinting towards God. This verse 186 speaks volume. I mean, if you do, are we really paying attention? He leaves them in their sins. God leaves them. There's no there's no more forgiveness. They live in this water of sins floating in there, and blundering all the stuff. Then they say one after another about God, lies about God, lies about. See, we started beautifully. Pay attention. We beautifully started. The verse say that the truth renders them guidance. Those who oppose, and then God gives examples and understanding, and then look how beautifully each verse is connected with the previous verse. Which Hadith and this, and you still want to pull this, you still want to follow all the stuff that has been passed on, talking about this and that. We hear and say no proof, nothing at all, and you gonna where God says which Hadith other than this, you commit, still you want to reject it, then God commits them to straying. Okay, fine, that's what you want. If somebody wants to buy a car that is just not good, and you try to explain that person, don't buy it, and but the person, when you get to the point, you have tried to explain that person, don't make that transaction, this car is not good, but the person has decided, okay, fine, what can I do? So that comes that kind of stage where person is insist upon, I'm gonna do this no matter what. And that point, it commits to, okay, that's what he wants, sign the paper, send this person, God, I'm just saying in a worldly way. After that, once it's been stamped by God and signed, I'm just kind of giving an analogy. Once that document is signed by God and commit and stamped, nobody can guide us. There's no way can. And then this person will be, and then this kind of person gonna take a new heights in that direction. Who obeys God, and God takes them to new heights. Those who disobey, they go in the different heights in a negative way, without even realizing it. They ask you about the end of the day, and they ask you about the end of the world, the hour, and when it will come to pass. Say, the knowledge therefore is with my Lord. Only He reveals its time. Heavy it is in the heavens and the earth. If it will not come to you except suddenly. They ask you as if they are in control thereof. Say, the knowledge therefore is with God. But most people do not know. And the footnote for that is that the right time to reveal this information was predestined to be 1980 AD through God's messenger of the covenant, c. 1587, 72:27, and the appendices 2 and 11, and then 7:187. The hour comes suddenly only to the disbelievers, see appendix 11. So it comes suddenly for those who disbelieve. Their time of death basically is, to be honest, this is when the time of death comes, our retribution starts right at then. The angels, the messenger of God come. The way they take their soul, it's a horrible picture to imagine. And there are verses how they take the soul out, and how they take the soul of believers very politely. I mean, very like enjoyably, if you think about it. Very different, completely different. So the believers, they will, for them, there's no hardship on the day of judgment either, and the time between the death and the day of judgment is a peaceful paradise place where they're gonna live in heaven. And the day of judgment happens, and they go back to God in heaven. But for the disbelievers, this is very. And then, so this was asked to the different times. Even now, every now and then, people say when the day of judgment will come. God has already told us by the miracle of 19, through the messenger of the covenant, the exact date when this will happen. And we can read all these verses, and they tell you exact day is in both Islamic calendar and the English calendar. The date is multiple of 19, both numbers. They are like when you put in the calculator, they multiply by 19. I don't have the information right now here, but there are two numbers that multiple 19. Okay. I'll talk about it here, inshallah. (1400 AH). That's with 1980 AD. 1980, 300 solar years, which is up to 2280. So if you put 2280 in the calculator and divide by 19, is 120. So this is the English calendar, and if you take 2280 and you divide by 19, divide by 19 is equal to 120. No decimal, it's a perfect number. And then you take 1710, that's the lunar calendar. This is a solar calendar, this is a lunar calendar. Divided by 19 is equal to, let me do that. So inshallah, 19 by 19. No, 1710 divide by 19. It's 90. So the both are even number. How when 1710 will happen in the lunar calendar, the year, this will be the solar year on that year. Imagine in the future. Today we are like going this direction. Today is 2025, and when we reach the calendar, this is supposed year 2080. And in the middle somewhere will be 2100. Somewhere we'll go 1 year after another. And when we reach to this point, like right now we are 2025, and there's a lunar year for that. I don't know exactly what is this right now, but you can look it up. But when we reach to 2280 and the lunar yearly 1710 and the same time. They both are multiple of 19. That's when the day of judgment will happen, and we have this information. So they ask you about the end of the day. Prophet Muhammad was not given that information. That information was though in the Quran. The miracle of 19 was in the Quran, and God has a specific plan. When that right time comes, when the people reach the scientific age, the computer will speak, and that time will be the right time. And we see why that is the right time. We can understand math and all that stuff. And the AI is taking the new leads, and maybe that will show more signs. AI will prove to us this book is from God. Maybe AI will speak on its own the truth. This book is from God. Maybe that's when people start taking heed, and a lot of people accept that. Maybe God knows. Just saying. And they're asking when this will come to pass. Yeah. Say only He reveals the time. Heavy it is in the heavens and the earth. It will not come to except suddenly. Then the knowledge is with God, which most people do not know. The people of the cave, 300, the time they stayed, and God says, that is linked with the day of judgment. There's information in the Surah 18. You can read that. So it's a very long time in the future. You think about it, but to be honest with you, in the previous verse, God gives us a hint that they think about their end may be near. In that verse, that God talks about, have they realized that their end may be near? That verse, and we're in find right now. But basically, to be honest with you, our day of judgment starts the time of death for that person. Because we live from the time of death to the day of judgment. We live in the continuous nightmare state of that until the day of judgment, and where we see the nightmare continuously. And we know that when we have dreams and when we go to sleep, God shows us signs. When we are in the dream, life looks real. That's why we don't do crazy things. When we are in the dream, we don't know that's a dream. We think it's a reality, and we act appropriately in the dream because we know there will be consequences. We don't go wild, and like you're driving on the road and you're dreaming and you say, "Oh, it's a dream. I'm gonna just pedal to the metal. It's a dream." No, we will drive carefully. If something happened, we are driving. We'll be watchful, like it's a real life. And imagine those nightmares from the time of death. When like for example, this person. This person was born here, and then he lived up to life. At 75, a person dies, and was a disbeliever. Now, from this point, and this is the day of judgment. 22, was it 80? I don't know. Okay, it was 1710, for example. And in this time, we don't know how many years would that be. In spiritual world, could be longer or shorter, we don't know. But this time is spent continuous nightmare. And imagine how horrible that feeling. And then maybe those dreams are more realistic even compared to this, because sometimes we see a dream which is more realistic. We wake up and it felt more real than some dreams less real. So could be these dreams will be so vivid, colorful, that this person will actually think they're living the nightmare, where they will be scared. In dreams, we don't feel pain, but we do get scared. We get afraid and all that. Feelings are there, but no feeling of pain. Maybe in this time, they will have no pain, but we will be scared to death. Imagine how fearful it is. like you walking in the night, middle of the night in the graveyard, and some weird sounds are like some screaming sound in the graveyard in the middle of the night. You're walking, so there's no physical pain, there's no pinching or nothing, no hurt, but it's a scary thing. That in itself is something different. What other emotions can God put in those things? Can you imagine that? So it's a horrible picture. So the people here are talking about what is the end of the day? Irrelevant question. Why would you even? I mean, I know it's a good question, and we have the answer to that now, but it's relevant. Like if somebody asks you, when is the day of judgment, and then you can say, how old are you? I'm 40-year-old. I can tell you roughly, maybe 20 more years. Oh, the world will end. No, for you. I can tell you roughly. It can be earlier before, but I'm going to give you, for example, somebody asks you, when it will be the day of judgment? I said, how old are you? Okay, I'm 40. What is your lifestyle? I'm just laying on a story. What kind of food do you eat? Do you exercise? Let me check your blood. Let me run some tests. Let me do MRI and this and that. Why are you doing all this? Wait, I'm going to tell you more accurate answer. By looking at your whole health history, the way your body is, you're expected to live. I mean, I'm saying God controls life and death, but just for analogy, the expected life expectancy is like 65. And by looking at this, you smoke and this and that, all those factors, including after this, you may live 75, but those 10 years will be like, basically, you'll be on the bed. You have no awareness. You could have Alzheimer, this and that. So I'm giving you a strong picture. The guy will say, I'm asking you about the day of judgment. Why are you talking about me? How old, this and that, and what kind of disease I'll be suffering? So, well, it's irrelevant. Your time will start when you get to the downfall. And to be honest with you, it's way before that. Did you read these verses? You expected to die at 65, and maybe somebody has God written the person's going to die at 65, but the retribution started even before that. How that is possible? Not even time of death. The heavens starts now and forever. What does that mean? For those who disbelieve, for those who believe, their happiness starts in this world. That opposite can be also true for the negative. So they follow the path where they suffer the consequences in this world. Stress. Do you think the happiness will be for those people who disbelieve? Do you think that this person will live life, but people will see has a lot of money or this and that, but internally how can this person be happy when the soul is not even grown? The happiness belongs to the soul. So even though this person is living in a stressful way, and the religion has been adorned in the life, there's no more U-turn. You see the verses we read. Leave them in their blunderings. So the day of judgment, even the time of death, even before that, the retribution starts to happen. So why even ask a relevant question? When is the day of judgment? The mashallah, at least we know that is. But even for us, we're not going to live that long anyway. So we have to worry about, time of birth, time of death. I used to think that your day of judgment starts right there, but actually it starts even way before that. The suffering starts to happen before that. And same for the person who obey God. This person was born here. This person dies here. For the believer, their heaven starts right here. And they reach the time of death. Angel comes, invites them with peacefully, beautifully, and then they go into heaven. And then the actual day of judgment happens, for example, here. And then however long that lasts, and then so their heaven starts here, the hell starts here in the basic way. Praise be to God. God willing, start from 188, where God talks about the messengers are powerless and they do not know the future. Actually, I can cover that because that is connected with the Day of Judgment. Messengers are powerless. They do not know the future. Say, I have no power to benefit myself or harm myself. Only what God wills happens to me. If I knew the future, I would have increased my wealth and no harm would have afflicted me. I am no more than a warner and a bearer of good news for those who believe. So praise be to God. More hints, more signs. And God says that saying that the heading, look at them, they are powerless. They don't know the future. Messengers themselves don't do anything. We don't do anything. Everything's run by God. We simply pick God or not. Anything that good do is done by God. And anything that bad do is because caused by our decision, our action. That's why we are suffering. So God is telling the messenger, say, speak, tell these people. The previous question, the servers, they asked when the day of judgment will come. Here is the messenger speaking. The prophet is speaking at the time when the Quran was revealed. I have no power to benefit myself. He's saying, I have no power to benefit myself. He's saying that to the people. What makes us think a strong hint that people say that day of judgment, because we belong to that ummah, that we will be saved? He's saying, I have no power to even benefit myself. This is the word in Quran spoken by him. Do we see any red flags here? Do we see any the A, B, C, D? This was the right answer. Clearly speaking here, don't pick these answers. I have no power to benefit myself. Simple black and white words. What makes us think that he will, on the day of judgment, that he can benefit anybody else? He has not even have capacity to benefit himself. He depends on God. All messengers, prophet, angels, everybody depends on God for the benefit. He said, I have no benefit or harm myself. I can't even hurt myself to the point. I don't even have the capacity to hurt myself. Only what God wills happens to me. That based on the factors we have studied many times. Only what God's benefits, God wills happens to me. And we read the verses. If you pick God, God guides us. If you pick anything else, that will take us to negativity. All done by God. Choice was ours. God created fire to cook. We can put our finger in it to burn, but the system, the mechanism, is gonna do the same thing. So God has created the guidance, and disbelieving of this Australian guidance. If you choose, happen. If you don't, then the opposite will happen. If I knew the future, if I knew the future, I would have increased my wealth, and no harm would have inflicted me. See, he's putting in a very serious words that if I know the future, I would have increased my wealth. Today's life, you can see the stock market. Somebody knows they can or do anything business. This business will boom. If you know the future, you can invest in that, and then you can increase and avoid all the somebody can cause. But in a way, but he's saying, if you read between the lines, if you understand, if I obey God, nothing will afflict me. And my wealth will be increased in a positive direction. But in worldly matter, it's kind of different thing. But he's trying to prove his point that I don't know. If you're asking me a question, I would have been the richest person. I am no more than a warner. I mean, how many times are we going to read this? I am no more than a warner. Throughout the Quran, in any language you read it, again and again and again. What makes us think that he cannot even benefit himself? So if a preacher tells us, oh, prophet, will be spared this and that, he say, well, sir, this is the Quran. It says God wrote this here. That messenger will say, I cannot even benefit myself, and I'm just a warner. What you are saying the opposite of the Quran. So should I take your word or should I take the Quran's word? And if the person would say, no, listen to me, this is written from that book, this book, that book. I say, well, just previous verses we read, which revelation other than, which hadith other than this you follow. So God even gave me the hint over there. So God is telling me not to follow anything. So I'm going to read here, and I'm going to read that he cannot benefit himself. So he's no more than a warner. So I'm going to take the Quran. I'm going to accept. I have a free choice, right? You ask the question, do I have the free choice to decide? Yeah, you have the free choice. Yes. So what do you want to choose? Oh, well, since it's my choice, I wanna choose the Quran. Right, this is my choice. And somebody sitting next to me also same thing. Hey man, what you choosing? I said, oh, I choose them. He said, so you're gonna reject this black and white verses? Oh, okay. So you choose them, okay? But sir, I don't take. I take what God says. We hear and we obey. So to me, messengers are warners, and they cannot benefit themselves. And I'm gonna pick whatever the Quran says. This is my final answer. What's your final answer? Oh, you're gonna take all that? Just your final answer. Okay. So this is where the partition happens in a roughly analogy. That the one who God mislead them without ever realizing, and the works are adorned in their life, and then somebody said, somebody, for example, asked me, what's your final answer? Quran only, Quran alone. Okay, open this door for this person. And then you start leading. And if you continue to follow that path by hearing and we obey, because at that moment also, Satan's going to attack you, and, whispers continues. So you have to stay, but we make the initial decision. When we come to submission, we are excited and everything, and the slowly, excitement starts to veer off. But we have to stay, the honeymoon phase. When it's over, people start fights. So, and we have to stay on it. The story of Moses, in the beginning, the magicians were so excited, they're ready to die. But what happened with them, we don't know. But we know that after some time, when the excitement dies, then even in marriage, in the beginning, everybody's so excited and we were happy, honeymoon phase. After a couple of years, when everything settles down, we start. Well, think about what makes you disappoint. Keep that motivation, momentum going. That's why we have to stick with that thing. We hear and we obey. Until it's pretty simple, man. Honestly, to tell you that when you come to submission, there's a lot of excitement. That's a honeymoon phase, and then. Like, for example, there's a graph, and we're like living a regular life, and all of a sudden we understand the submission, the graph goes up, and then starts to, go down slowly. And where we have to pick it up, we need to hold on to the God's message, the trust in God, and all those. We have to hold on to those, because this is the time where the admission test happens. That's where we have to struggle through that phase, keep afloat, until we come out of the admission test. Then this excitement, it has no plateau. Basically, you just keep on going, soaring above the sky. It continues up. So once you take off, stay up there, because otherwise, if you let go, we don't hold on to that, because the honeymoon phase is over, and now we have to struggle. We have to we have to put our trust in God. We have to go fight a lot of negative feelings. No, trust God, believe in God. What God says, this is it. Any situation comes, what God says, let's do that. I don't care if I'm going to suffer $10,000 loss or whatever in business. What God says. So that admission test is over. What God says, God sees it. This person has proven to be a believer. Then the honeymoon phase gets into the more higher stage. It's on steroids now. The high honeymoon phase reaches forever. That's some of the analogy. Mashallah, praise God. So messenger says, no more than a warner. What do you expect me to do? I just came here. He's a messenger of God. He's saying he's just going to deliver the message, and that's it. You take it, you don't take it. You don't harm me, I don't harm you. God is going to judge us on the day of judgment. And the bear of good news for those who believe. Anybody who believes in that message. What is the message? The Quran, the word of God. That's a good news for them. But the warning for those who disobey. I mean, what a beautiful verse of good news. You have good news that's expecting. Just hang in there through the admission test. Just hang in there. A lot of negative things happens. Nothing is irreversible through that time. Everything's running according to God. You are being tested. You are sitting in an examination hall. Just stick in there. Just do the best you can and get out of it as soon as possible. As soon as possible. There's the computerized test. It's very similar to admission test. Inshallah, God willing, I'll talk about that maybe in the next class study. Roughly, the admission test is relevant to that. But the good news is beyond. Praise be to God. God willing, I'll stop here and continue from the verse number 189. Praise God.